Sir Ridley Scott is renowned for his extensive and varied filmography, which ranges from period action dramas to futuristic cyberpunk noir. In the 2023 action epic Napoleon, Ridley Scott applies his directorial prowess to narrate the life story of Napoleon Bonaparte. The film mainly focuses on Napoleon's ascent to power and his relationship with his wife, Josephine. Though released in the US on November 22, 2023, the film's production initially started in October 2020. However, due to delays and casting changes amid the pandemic, actual filming commenced in February 2022. With a runtime of 157 minutes, Scott's film promises to chronicle the triumphs and tragedies of Napoleon's life from his reign as emperor to his downfall into exile. Though the question remains, can Ridley Scott create an epic that truly does justice to the monumental figure of Napoleon? But before we get into the review, if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Also, hitting the notification bell will alert you when we drop new content. Now, let's get critical. It's 1793, and we witness firsthand the brutal and poignant state of the French citizens and their monarchy. France is in the midst of a revolution. Marie Antoinette is taken to the guillotine, where she is mocked and executed. Napoleon, in attendance, watches from afar. Later, we find Napoleon in charge of managing the siege of Toulon, which was under Anglo-Spanish occupation. Here, Napoleon achieves his first notable victory and is promptly promoted. The French leaders find Maximilien Robespierre guilty of acting as judge, jury, and executioner, and thus sentence him to death, ending the Reign of Terror. French leaders, including Napoleon, attempt to restore stability. Now a general, Napoleon takes an interest in the aristocratic widow Josephine de Beauharnais, and the two eventually marry. Despite their extremely active sex life, they have no children. Napoleon is deployed to Egypt during the French invasion of Egypt, where he wins a major victory, capturing Alexandria and crossing the desert to decimate almost the entire Ottoman army in Egypt. The importance of this battle lies in it being the first time Bonaparte personally devised and employed the divisional square tactic to great effect. Capturing Alexandria and winning decisive victories in Egypt were critical in France's continued campaign against British India. Despite his victories abroad, Napoleon promptly returns home after hearing of his wife's infidelity. The French Directory, the governing five-member committee of the First French Republic, criticizes Napoleon for abandoning his troops. In rebuttal, Bonaparte condemns their poor leadership of France. Defying the French Directory, Napoleon, alongside several others, overthrows their rule and is appointed Emperor of the French in 1804. Napoleon attempts to broker an alliance with the Austrians, who at first dismissed the idea. However, alongside the Russians, they are later outmaneuvered and outmatched in the Battle of Austerlitz. Back in France, Napoleon's mother suggests he impregnate a mistress to confirm his or Josephine's infertility. When the mistress is confirmed to be with child, Napoleon forces Josephine into an annulment in order to remarry Marie-Louise of Austria, who bears him a son a year later. In 1812, Napoleon invades Russia after Russian Tsar Alexander I reneges on a peace treaty. He is victorious despite heavy losses and finding the capital of Russia, Moscow, empty and later set aflame by the Russians. Having marched into the bitter Russian winter, Napoleon returns to France, having lost about 500,000 men. In 1814, a coalition forces Napoleon's abdication and exiles him to Elba. After hearing of Josephine's illness, Napoleon returns to France, where he encounters the 5th Regiment sent to stop him. However, he convinces the regiment to join his cause. Josephine dies before his arrival. At the Battle of Waterloo, Napoleon confronts the British army under the command of the Duke of Wellington. Bonaparte is outmatched by his own tactics, being defeated by the divisional square tactic. The French are routed and Napoleon retreats, saluting Wellington. Napoleon is exiled again, this time to the remote island of St. Helena in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Here, he lives out his last days, writing his memoirs, which become worldwide bestsellers. Napoleon dies in 1821, his last words being France, the army, and Josephine. Ridley Scott collaborated with David Scarpa, who is also recognized for his work on Ridley Scott's sequel to the 2000 blockbuster Gladiator, Gladiator 2, to craft this semi-biographical film. The movie bears the distinctive visual style and maturity that are hallmarks of Scott's work, reminiscent of films like The Last Duel, Kingdom of Heaven, or Exodus: Gods and Kings. However, since the script shifts focus away from Napoleon's military and tactical achievements, it relies heavily on the strength of its writing to propel the narrative. Ridley Scott excels in maintaining thematic pacing and adeptly conveying the script's intention. Nevertheless, this film presents an over-ambitious challenge for the director, juggling a romance, a war story, and a tale of political ambition. Scott brilliantly captures the battles, especially the Battle of Austerlitz, invoking memories of the opening scene in Gladiator. The depiction of communication between commanders and troops, and the portrayal of battle tactics, both from afar and up close, showcase Napoleon's strategic genius, making for compelling cinema. However, the film's impact is diminished by its writing. The script unfortunately falls short. David Scarpa's effort to humanize Napoleon results in a narrative that is weak and characters that are underdeveloped. With scant insight into Napoleon's psyche or background, whether dramatic or otherwise, the audience is left puzzled by the inconsistencies in his character, fluctuating between a frantic, eccentric leader in one moment and a stoic, reserved commander in the next. The film also suffers from rushed pacing. Despite a runtime of over 2 hours, it feels as though there isn't enough time to thoroughly explore the story. This issue stems from the script's attempt to cover all facets of Napoleon's life, a task that would arguably require a prequel and a sequel to do it justice. Scarpa's clunky humor and historical inaccuracies further detract from what could have been a cinematic masterpiece. Regrettably, the screenplay didn't provide much support to the actors who did their best with the material they had. The film might have been more coherent and impactful had it concentrated on just one of 3 themes: Napoleon's political ascent and popularity, his strategic brilliance in battle, or his romantic relationship with Josephine. Such focus would have given the actors and director a unified objective and clear direction. As it stands, with the film being pulled in multiple directions, it was challenging as a viewer to determine which aspects to prioritize. The battle scenes were the only parts that truly captivated me, which is not surprising given it's a movie about Napoleon. More of these would have been welcoming, although I would have also been open to a politically driven narrative, reminiscent of something like Game of Thrones. This film seemed like a missed opportunity, one that could have ranked among Ridley Scott's finest works. Unfortunately, it is destined to remain lesser known and not quite celebrated. With that, I'm giving this movie 2 out of 5 stars. France, Army, disappointment.